Hi, my name's Robert Simeoni. I'm presenting Adelaide Street house. This project is for a family of 6 people, 4 children and 2 adults, and it's set in a reasonably typical street of Armadale. The adjoining houses are mostly single houses, 2-storey in nature and mostly detached. The site itself is just under 900 square metres. It runs sort of east-west, and given the amount of program required by the clients, I was very keen to try to reduce the scale of the building and in effect separate it into predominantly 2 parts, separated by quite a deep north-facing courtyard, and trying therefore to create this sort of, in a sense, an enfilade of views through one space, through a garden into another space, and hopefully sort of developing a sense of intimacy through that. The sequence from the street is walking down through here, and I was really keen to create this moment like a transition zone that was a quiet space, a very empty room through which you arrived, walk through that space before entering the building proper. And this wing to the east is much more formal with 2 living spaces and an office, and then an informal living space in this area, picking up northern light down into the circulation area, but also morning light down into the kitchen and living. The basement area is quite a large car park with ancillary service areas and a plant room. All the plant and equipment is located in there. And then to the east is a cellar with a gymnasium, both of them looking onto a sunken courtyard. The first floor is really broken up into 2 parts, the parents' wing to the east and then a children's wing to the west. One of the early issues we dealt quite carefully with neighbours and perceived and real overlooking. So we started thinking about the perceived sense of the windows to these side walls, and keen to start thinking about these windows being, rather than windows, more as sort of vertical skylights that allowed diffuse light into the room, and looking at the outlook to the sky, so that I was concerned about the sort of awkwardness perhaps in the room of a 1700 or 1800 high windowsill. Very early on it was determined with the clients that the building would be in off-form concrete, and thinking about sort of buildings that have been important to me over the years, in particular Graham Gunn's Plumbers Building in Carlton, and the exuberance and excitement of the form and of the finish. The Fire Brigade in East Melbourne, just for the sheer precision and beauty of the off-form concrete work itself. And then one building particularly dear to me in Bulleen, the Vanuatu Club, where I'd spent my sort of youth there with my parents, and there's something by Minurel Smacker in the early 70s, and there's something quite beautiful about the tactility of the concrete, and to me there's almost sort of a tenderness in the way the concrete is felt when you're there. So the building complete now, a view of the building from the driveway, and then from the entry from the street, the recessed porch leading through into this sort of quite deliberately dark, empty space, and then which leads into the main living area, from which you immediately get a view of the courtyard and the other spaces leading on from there beyond. Formal living space which has a diagonal view into this children's sort of play area. I've always been slightly intrigued by this duality of views, where there's one view that's a long sweeping view into a further space, and then a separate view into a courtyard. Just quick view of the courtyard itself, and the predominantly all glazed around there to sort of facilitate the views through and into that space. View the main staircase to the house leading up to the first floor, and some views of this sort of main structure. The behind that section there is a secondary circulation space. There's quite a lot of storage in here, powder room, those sort of spaces. And it's interesting how, I guess, you know, in a forum like this, you mention how these memories and thoughts come to you. But I was thinking about Rossi's Wilhelmstrasse in Berlin from the 80s and that lovely sort of column. And somehow, I'm sure it happens to all of us, that you start remembering certain items and they become reference point, at least in our own mind, that maybe they don't get mentioned to clients, but they're there and they somehow become important for the process. Then a view looking slightly more towards the east to this less formal living and kitchen space. The first floor arrival point is looking then into this lovely sort of robinia that's growing beautifully with selected through Eckersley's landscape architects, and view then through to the children's area and this little spot just outside the parents' zone where you look down into a living space and a garden beyond and through into this space beyond. I very deliberately dislocated the concrete slab and the window arrangement so that the transoms don't align with the slab, and it gives a certain freedom then to the configuration of the window and the composition. And I sort of like the way the sounds and things permeate through the building. Obviously that's discussed at length with the client, but there's a sort of a nice subtle connection that comes through that. View into the parents' main wing. This is a guest bathroom. In a lot of sections I've tried to set windows back from faces so you get a soft sort of diffuse light coming into the space at different times of the day. The rear of the building is really designed as two blocks that sort of meet at a midpoint, and then create also a covered area for an external terrace. And then this more blank facade to the west turns and leads you into the courtyard space in the middle. Final set of shots then take us down into the basement where there's the cellar looking onto a sunken courtyard. And then the garage itself, which is just quite a large space for a sort of 8 cars with ancillary spaces to the left and the plant room in the distance. And towards the end of that space, there's a secondary stair that leads into the utilities area. A small bathroom for the pool house arrangement. Then just some final details of a ventilation idea for an internal courtyard. And some final details of the concrete structure itself. And the final view looking from the upper level corridor down into the garden below. Thank you.